when a team wins the World Series, loses a 24-year-old power bat to a division rival, and nobody even notices? Should we be concerned? Or is this just business as usual in baseball's new Cold War? There's a certain arrogance that comes with being the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not the bad kind, the earned kind. The kind that comes from having Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman on your roster while simultaneously stockpiling prospects like a doomsday prepper hoards canned goods. But sometimes that depth becomes a double-edged sword. And this week, we witnessed a perfect example of how organizational abundance can lead to quiet but potentially significant losses. Welcome back, where we dissect the moves that fly under the radar but might matter more than anyone realizes. Today, we're talking about Jose Ramos, a name you probably don't know, a player the Dodgers just let walk to the New York Mets, and a situation that reveals everything about modern baseball's brutal calculus of talent evaluation and opportunity. On Wednesday, the baseball world barely blinked when Jose Ramos signed a minor league contract with the New York Mets. No press conference, no social media fanfare, just a quiet transaction log update that marked the end of a 7.5-year relationship between a player and the only professional organization he'd ever known. Ramos, who first signed with the Dodgers as an amateur free agent back in 2018, elected free agency on November 6th. A move that's particularly noteworthy because he's only 24 years old. In the minor leagues, where players often grind into their late 20s before getting that first cup of coffee in the majors, a 24-year-old exercising his free agency rights sends a clear message: I don't think you're going to give me a chance, so I'm finding someone who will. And you know what? He's probably right. The Dodgers' organizational depth is both their greatest strength and, paradoxically, their most significant barrier for prospects trying to break through. When you've got a major league roster that costs more than some small nation's GDP, and a farm system consistently ranked among baseball's best, the competition for roster spots becomes absolutely ruthless. Players don't just need to be good, they need to be undeniable. And in the Dodgers system, even being really good might not be enough. Let's talk about what the Dodgers are actually losing here, because Ramos isn't just some organizational filler who is taking up space on a minor league roster. This is a legitimate power bat, 92 home runs across 580 minor league games. That's a home run every 6.3 games, which might not sound earth-shattering until you remember these are minor league numbers where the competition is tougher, the travel is brutal, and the conditions are far from ideal. For context, that's roughly a 25 home run pace over a full 162-game season. Not elite, but absolutely respectable for a player still developing his approach. But here's where it gets interesting. Ramos' 2024 season showed real growth, particularly after his promotion to AAA Oklahoma City in July. In 44 games at the highest level of the minors, he posted a .916 OPS in the Pacific Coast League, a notorious hitter's paradise where offense flows like wine at a wedding reception. Even accounting for the inflated offensive environment, that's impressive production from a player getting his first taste of AAA competition. 18 home runs in 102 games across two levels, a .916 OPS at AAA. Clear raw power that translates into game situations. These aren't the numbers of a player who's washed out or hit his ceiling. These are the numbers of someone who's knocking on the door, waiting for someone to answer. The Dodgers chose not to answer. The Mets did. Here's something that should raise eyebrows. Jose Ramos peaked at number 14 on the Dodgers' organizational prospect rankings from MLB Pipeline back in 2022. That's not a throwaway position. That's legitimate prospect status in one of baseball's deepest farm systems. Think about what that means. The Dodgers' scouting and development staff, which is among the best in baseball, identified Ramos as a top 15 organizational talent just 2 years ago. These are the same evaluators who've helped develop Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, Will Smith, and countless other major league contributors. When they rank someone that high, it's not a guess, it's based on tools, projection, and upside. So, what changed between 2022 and now? Did Ramos suddenly lose his ability? Did he regress dramatically? The numbers suggest otherwise. More likely, the organizational depth simply became too crowded, the path to the majors too congested, and Ramos realized that waiting his turn might mean waiting forever. This is the hidden cost of the Dodgers. Win now, while building for later philosophy. They're so good at both competing and developing that talented players get squeezed out, not because they can't play, but because there's simply no room at the inn. Now, here's where this gets deliciously ironic. The Dodgers actually need outfield help. According to the data, Los Angeles ranked 18th out of 30 teams in outfield FWAR this past season at just 4.3. That's mediocre at best, borderline problematic at worst. Teoscar Hernández had a down year. Mookie Betts moved full-time to shortstop, removing one of baseball's best outfielders from the position. The depth behind them was inconsistent and injury-prone. So you'd think a 24-year-old power-hitting outfielder who just posted a .916 OPS at AAA might get a long look, right? Maybe an invitation to Major League spring training? A chance to compete for a bench spot or fourth outfielder role? Instead, the Dodgers let him walk. They're now reportedly pursuing Kyle Tucker, the superstar free agent right fielder, who will command a contract in the neighborhood of $300 to $400 million. That's the Dodgers way. Why develop a cost-controlled power bat when you can just buy the best one available? Don't get me wrong, Tucker is a significantly better player than Ramos. That's not even a debate. But the philosophy here is revealing. The Dodgers would rather spend massive money on proven commodities than give opportunities to internal options who might be 80% as good for 5% of the cost. It's a luxury most teams can't afford. It's also a luxury that creates situations exactly like this one, where talented young players look around, see no path forward, and take their talents elsewhere. Let's shift perspective for a moment and talk about what New York is getting here. The Mets just traded away Brandon Nimmo, creating a significant hole in their outfield. They need bodies, they need power, and they need players who can contribute sooner rather than later. Ramos checks multiple boxes. Is he going to be their starting left fielder on opening day? Almost certainly not. But in baseball's modern roster construction, where depth is paramount and injuries are inevitable, having a 24-year-old power bat who can step in and contribute is valuable. The Mets are giving Ramos something the Dodgers wouldn't: a realistic path to major league playing time. Think about it from Ramos' perspective. In Los Angeles, he's competing with established major leaguers, high-priced free agents, and other highly ranked prospects for maybe 1 or 2 roster spots. In New York, the outfield is suddenly wide open, the competition is less fierce, and the opportunity to make an impression is real. It's the classic big fish in a small pond versus small fish in a big pond scenario, except both ponds are major league organizations. Ramos chose to be a bigger fish, and you can't blame him one bit. This situation raises uncomfortable questions about the Dodgers' player development pipeline and organizational philosophy. How many Jose Ramos have quietly slipped through the cracks over the years? How many players with legitimate major league potential have looked at the organizational depth chart, realized they'd be waiting behind $300 million superstars, and decided to seek opportunities elsewhere? The Dodgers' farm system is consistently ranked among baseball's best, but there's a difference between developing prospects and actually promoting them to the major leagues. Los Angeles has become masters of the former while being increasingly selective about the latter. They develop talent, sure, but increasingly that talent ends up contributing elsewhere, either through trades or situations exactly like this one. Is that a problem? Depends on your perspective. If you're winning World Series championships as the Dodgers just did, you can justify any organizational philosophy. Results speak louder than process. But there's something fundamentally inefficient about investing 7+ years in developing a player, watching him show legitimate power and production at the highest minor league level, and then letting him walk for nothing because you'd rather spend $400 million on a free agent. Let's talk dollars and cents, or in this case, dollars and cents. Jose Ramos, had he made the Dodgers roster, would be earning somewhere near the major league minimum, roughly $750,000 for the 2026 season. Kyle Tucker, the player the Dodgers are reportedly pursuing to fill their outfield needs, will command an average annual value somewhere between $35 to $45 million. That's not a typo. The difference between developing Ramos and signing Tucker is approximately $40 million per year. Now, Tucker is obviously the better player. He's a perennial MVP candidate, a Gold Glove defender, and one of baseball's most complete players. But is he $40 million per year better than giving Ramos a chance? That's the question the Dodgers have implicitly answered with their actions. For most organizations, that financial gap would be prohibitive. For the Dodgers, it's just another line item in a payroll that already exceeds $300 million. They can afford to be inefficient because they can afford everything. But efficiency still matters, even for the richest teams, because roster spots are finite and opportunities are precious. Put yourself in Jose Ramos' shoes for a moment. You're 24 years old. You've spent your entire professional career, 7.5 years, grinding through the minor leagues for one organization. You've hit 92 home runs. You've climbed from rookie ball to AAA. You've been ranked as a top 15 organizational prospect. You just posted a .916 OPS at the highest level of the minors. And then you look at the major league roster and see Mookie Betts, Freddie, Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, and Will Smith. You see the team actively pursuing Kyle Tucker in free agency. You see an organization that would rather spend hundreds of millions on proven commodities than give you a legitimate shot. What would you do? Would you wait patiently, hoping for an injury or unexpected opportunity? Or would you exercise your free agency rights, find an organization that actually needs what you provide, and bet on yourself? Ramos chose the latter, and it's hard to argue with that decision. In professional sports, opportunities are fleeting and careers are short. Waiting for the perfect situation often means waiting until it's too late. So, what's the final analysis here? Are the Dodgers making a mistake letting Jose Ramos walk? Honestly, probably not a catastrophic one. Ramos is a nice player with legitimate power, but he's not a can't-miss prospect. He's got holes in his game. His strikeout rate is elevated, his defensive metrics aren't spectacular, and there are legitimate questions about whether his AAA success translates to major league pitching. But here's the thing. We'll never know what Ramos could have been in a Dodgers uniform because they never gave him a real chance. That's the cost of organizational depth and financial might. Talented players slip away, not because they can't play, but because there's simply no room. The Mets are getting a lottery ticket. Maybe Ramos develops into a productive major league outfielder who provides 15 to 20 home runs annually and solid defense. Maybe he flames out and never makes it past AAA, but at least they're giving him the opportunity to find out. The Dodgers, meanwhile, will continue doing what they do best, winning with expensive superstars while their farm system churns out talent that increasingly ends up contributing elsewhere. It's worked so far. They just won the World Series after all. But there's something slightly unsettling about watching a 24-year-old power bat walk away for nothing while the team contemplates spending $400 million on his replacement. In the end, this is a story about choices, opportunities, and the brutal efficiency of modern baseball. The Dodgers chose financial might over organizational development. Ramos chose opportunity over loyalty. The Mets chose potential over proven production. Time will tell who made the right call, but one thing's certain. Somewhere in the Mets minor league system, Jose Ramos is getting ready to prove that the Dodgers made a mistake letting him walk. And wouldn't that be something? What's your take on this? Should the Dodgers have kept Ramos and given him a legitimate shot, or is this just smart roster management from a championship organization? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear whether you think LA made the right call, or if they're going to regret letting this power bat slip away. And if you're enjoying these deep dives into the moves that matter, hit that like button and let's keep dissecting how championship teams are built, and sometimes how they let talent walk out the door.